Staff, are we ready? Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the September 21st, 2023 meeting of the City Planning Commission. I'm Alfredo Borrego, Chair of this commission, and I call this meeting to order at 1:33 p.m. Commissioner Castro, statement to the public.
Yes, sir. The City Plan Commission has sole and final approval authority over subdivision maps, which is statutorily limited to a ministerial examination of the application's conformance to all applicable code provisions. The staff report for an agenda item may include conditions, exceptions, or modifications. The Commission may approve the item with all staff report conditions, exceptions, or modifications, including additional measures regarding the item as imposed by the Commission. Otherwise, the staff report, with all modifications, exceptions, and conditions, is approved, and the applicant shall comply with all provisions of the staff report. Commissioners will consider all agenda items other than subdivision items in the form of a public hearing. The normal process is as follows. First, the Commission will hear a staff report, followed by a statement from the applicant. Then members of the public may speak, followed by any final statement from the applicant. Finally, the matter will be closed for further discussion or a motion among the Commission. The Commission shall then make a recommendation that will be forwarded to City Council.
Thank you, Commissioner Castro. At this time, we'd like to welcome our newest member, Commissioner Lauren Hanson. Welcome. You'll enjoy it, believe you me. Again, thank you for volunteering. Okay, now, Mr. Garcia.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Raul Garcia, Planning and Inspections. We do have one postponement. That's item number 3. Item number 3 will be postponed for 2 weeks. We do have 2 items on the consent agenda. Again, 2 items on the consent, one of them being the minutes. Aside from item number 7, there are only 3 other cases. They're pretty straightforward, 3 other presentations. So we'll go ahead and move along with the standard schedule on the agenda. With items 4, 5, and 6, since those are pretty straightforward and should be pretty quick. That way we can get to item number 7 after those. Those are all the changes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Garcia. But being that there's a lot of people here to speak for item number 7, I would like to see if we could move it up to being the first action we take after the consent agenda. Any talk about it?
I second your.
It's not a motion, it was just a recommendation. Please make it in the form of a motion, please. Yes.
I move that we move up item number 7. Oh, sorry. Commissioner Gallardo, I move that we move up item 7 after the consent agenda.
Second, Castro.
If I might, Kevin Smith, the Plan Inspection, just make sure there was also a postponement request for item 3 for 2 weeks. If that could be part of the motion as well, so we just take care of that item as well. please.
Commissioner Gallardo, that we also move to postpone item 3.
Second, Castro.
Okay, we have a motion to move up item number 7 and also to postpone item number 3. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, now, we go to the call to the public. Any public comment? I know that most of you want to speak public comment to item number 7, but this is the routine where anybody in the public can come and speak to us about anything on the agenda or anything in particular.
Just a slight, this item here is for anything not on the agenda.
Not on the agenda.
And then those who have signed up, you'll be given an opportunity for public comment at the agenda item. So again, these are for items not on the agenda for today.
If you're on the phone, *6. I don't think we have any. All right. Then we move forward to the consent agenda. On that one, we have the approval of the minutes and the major combination.
Carrillo, motion to approve.
Gorski, second.
We have a motion to approve items 1 and 2 of the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Thank you. Now, we move to item number 7. And for this one, we have 9 speakers. The rules on that's going to be 3 minutes each. And the City Plan Commissioner Secretary, Mr. Kevin Smith, will keep the time on that, okay? And the way it's going to work is we're going to do the presentation by staff, and then the representative of the company, and then we'll go into the public comments, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Raul Garcia, Planning Inspections, presenting on behalf of Mr. Saul Pina. So item number 7 is a proposed rezoning of property located at 9614 Socorro Road. This is the area of the property currently does contain 1 single-family structure on the property. The request, again, is to go from the existing ranch farm zoning to proposed C4 commercial light industrial zoning for a proposed warehouse facility. To provide some context as to the transition and the changes that are happening and have happened in this area, as you can see up on the screen, the map up there is of an area a little to the north, so in the same area, south of Americas, off of I-10 there. Those properties in yellow is the city of Socorro. So and then on the other side of I-10 is the county. The areas that you see right now in green, that's the city of El Paso. When you look at this area, we always have to start with the port of entry, the Zaragoza port of entry, right, which is again in this area, very close to this area. You look at Amazon. When Amazon came in and situated within the county of El Paso, there off of I-10 in Eastlake, that spurred a lot of development, a lot of light industrial warehousing type development, as well as the commercial development that you see ongoing there off of Eastlake and I-10. So really, a major player in the changes that we're seeing in this area is Amazon, which is, it's not in the city, it's not in the city of Socorro, it is in the county. The county is currently benefiting, getting all the benefits from having this Amazon distribution facility there within the county. The city of Socorro also back in 2020 did a major rezoning, a major amendment to their master plan. Those properties in yellow, that was a big rezoning that happened in 2020 in the city of Socorro. After once Amazon was situated, again a change to light industrial, same type of request that we see here before us today. Within the city of El Paso, those areas you see in green, that's the Ivy property. That property was rezoned in 2021 by city council, did approve that rezoning, same thing from ranch farm to C4, with conditions to mitigate the impact on the very direct and adjacent residential neighborhood there. As you go down kind of to the bottom left, those green areas within the city of El Paso, those are the Inglewood properties. Those properties were also rezoned back in 2021 by the city of El Paso, same type of request, ranch farm, C4. And again, we're noting these changes to bring attention to the changes, the transition that is happening within this region, within this area. Moving on from that, you have Americas Avenue, which TxDOT has invested millions, probably hundreds of millions of dollars in improvements regarding providing frontage roads off Americas, as well as doing some major upgrades to the Americas I-10 interchange. And then you also see Wind Road. City of El Paso just recently completed the extension of Wind Road. Again, all these improvements to address and solidify the recognition of the changes that are happening in this area. So when you look at the area from a holistic point of view, from a regional point of view, it's pretty evident as far as the changes that are happening and the effects those changes are happening on the surrounding properties. This particular property also was recently added to the foreign trade zone. The foreign trade zone is a Department of Commerce support tool supporting businesses by exempting custom duty fees related to foreign trade. So we do have an existing free trade zone within this area, which are the properties delineated in red. This past month, August 1st, City Council did approve and support the expansion of that free trade zone to include this subject property today before you, which is that property towards the middle of the map, delineated in blue, labeled with EPL expansion land. So again, another indicator of the city and the region recognizing the changes in this area, providing for these additional supportive tools for these types of businesses to flourish and to further the establishment of these types of uses. And again, that is something that council did support as part of their action on August 1st of this year. When you look at our comprehensive plan, Plan El Paso, that is our guiding document. That's the first thing we as staff look at in terms of direction when somebody proposes some type of rezoning. Excuse me. Our comprehensive map currently does designate this property as G7. Thank you. So, Plan El Paso was drafted in 2012. Was the original draft of the current Plan El Paso that we see now. What this tells you is even back in 2012, which is 11 years ago, the professional planners at that time foresaw that this property would be better suited for industrial. Plan El Paso is again, like I mentioned, our guiding document. It's the first thing that we use in terms of guiding our recommendations when it comes to rezonings. Some of those other rezonings that I mentioned of Ivy and Inglewood, there was a companion comp plan amendment. This case is a little bit different. This case, even back from 2012, was already identified as future industrial use. Again, and being in line with everything else that's going on in this area. This is the proposed detailed site development plan. The site plan does reflect a 12.8 acre parcel with access from Socorro Road and Carl Longumer. The site plan also reflects a warehouse building consisting of 182,000 square feet, as well as a 6,900 square foot office space there towards the front. There are 4 ponding areas. As you can see, 2 of the ponding areas are going to be dual use ponding drainage, as well as landscaped open areas. The facility is proposing 132 parking spaces. And as you can see, the regular automobile parking spaces are located to the eastern side of the development, and will serve solely for customer and employee parking. Those parking spaces, that parking area will be accessed solely from Socorro Road. As you can see, the development also includes a semi-truck maneuvering and docking area. The site plan proposes 2 semi-truck parking spaces as well as 38 docking doors for loading and unloading. And that area is concentrated to the western side of the property, which does abut already existing trucking facilities. Access to this area will be solely from Carl Longimer through a proposed lateral or bridge crossing over the existing lateral. It's important to note that the semi-truck maneuvering area, docking area, at its closest point to the western property line abutting residential is 350 feet. So what you have here is, and then it goes up from there. What you have here is the trucking area, then you have the actual warehouse facility, the office space, then you have the regular customer and employee parking area, and then you have some open areas with other mitigation measures there on the residential, the side abutting residential. Again, with the intent to mitigate the impact of the semi-tractor trailers on the residential neighborhood. The required landscaping for this property is over 55,000 square feet of landscaping. This project at this point is proposing over 91,000 square feet of landscaping, which does include the dual-purpose ponding landscaped areas, as well as a required landscape buffer trees and street trees, which do total 114 trees on the property. And again, as you can see there to the left, the site plan also reflects the proposed bridge crossing over the lateral, which will provide for the sole access for semi-tractor trailer trucks. So semi-tractor trailer trucks will not be allowed to enter or exit Socorro Road. Also, the site plan does also show an 8-foot rock wall at the eastern side of the property abutting the residential. Minimum required wall is 6 feet. Due to the comments we heard from the neighbors, the request was for a little higher wall. The highest it can go is 8 feet. So the proposal there is to have an 8-foot rock wall separating this property and the adjacent residential. So what you have there is that 8-foot rock wall. You also have the 10-foot landscape buffer. And as you'll see, as part of the proposed conditions, we're also implementing a 50-foot building setback on that side of the property. So again, all measures to hopefully mitigate the impact on the residential. The existing building, as I mentioned before, is way beyond the 50-foot setback. It's approximately, I would say, about 125, 150 foot from that property line. A portion of this property is within the historic designated Mission Trail corridor. This area delineated in blue is the area, the portion of the property that is within the historic corridor. And as you can see, what is being proposed within that portion is landscaping and the ponding, the dual purpose ponding and landscaping areas. That wall is actually going to be 6 feet. So that this wall along here, along the historical portion is going to be 6 feet tall. It's going to be a decorative combination wrought iron rock wall. Also, as you can see, it also includes trees, the landscaping buffer trees, as well as the street trees. No building structures are proposed within the historically designated portion of this property. And this particular design was presented, discussed, reviewed, and approved by the city's Historic Landmark Commission at their June 2023 meeting. It's important to note there was 2 meetings with the Historic Landmark Commission. One of the subsequent designs included parking in this area. Per the Historic Landmarks Commission's recommendations, they voted against having parking in this historic designated portion. So the applicant decided to kind of revert back to this design, which HLC has reviewed and approved, removing the parking, removing any type of building structures from the historic portion. It'll be consisting of green space, landscaping, trees, and that 6-foot decorative rock wall. So these are some pictures to kind of provide a little bit more context as to how this portion of the historic corridor actually looks like the existing conditions. That picture to the top is a view of the adjacent property to the east, which is an existing trucking facility. And as you can see, it does contain those street trees. That picture to the south is the properties directly across Socorro Road from this property. As you can see, it's your typical suburban residential development. The property on the other side of the subject property to the west, as you can see, is a commercial property. And the picture at the bottom is looking east along Socorro Road from the subject property, again, providing you some context in terms of what this portion of the trail looks like. As you can see, it's no different than any other suburban development area within the city. We do understand and appreciate the focus on the mission trails in this area and other structures along the trail, adobe structures type character design. But we did want to provide some additional context as far as the existing conditions along this particular portion of the corridor. This is a picture of the subject property. This is a picture of that lateral that will be required to be crossed, that will provide the sole access for the trucking facilities. As you can see, it is pretty wide and pretty deep. The surrounding development to the north and west are existing trucking facilities. To the south and west are existing trucking facilities, and to the north and east are your suburban type residential neighborhoods. So in terms of public input, there was quite a bit of public input on this application. This application first came in February of 2022. We didn't have our first public meeting until September of 2022. So again, that kind of shows you the back and forth that happened even before we had our first public meeting, which was a year ago, in September 10th of 2022. We had two subsequent public meetings, working with the city representative's office, working with the applicants, working with the neighborhoods. Subsequents were held on July 15th of this year, and then the third one was held on August 19th. And again, that's where several iterations of the design were discussed and presented and were commented on. And that's why you see the current design as well as the proposed conditions that I'll go over right now in a little bit, all as a result of the commentary and the information everybody received at these meetings. All applicable neighborhood associations were contacted and were informed of these meetings, and they did participate in these meetings. Additionally, the applicant took it upon himself to provide a meeting/tour of his existing facility in the area, which is off of Plaza Circle. That happened in August 16th of this year. And for that, he did go ahead and send out mailers to all property owners within 500 feet. So everybody within 500 feet was invited to his existing facility to provide opportunity for comment as well as tour his existing facility, which is going to be very similar to what is being proposed with this request. The main points of concern that we heard from the neighborhood was Socorro Road being historical, the semi-tractor trailer traffic from Socorro Road, the current condition of Socorro Road not having the capacity to address the semi-trucks, the noise pollution, and then the deed value of homes. The home values is something that we as planning staff cannot get into. Everything else has been addressed, was addressed, is being addressed by the design and or the conditions that are being imposed on this request. So us and the applicant heard the neighborhood loud and clear, and a lot of the things you see as part of today's request is as a result of those comments from the neighborhood. So again, just to kind of quickly recap, the applicant, in tandem with staff and city rep's office, did conduct 3 neighborhood meetings. The applicant did host his one kind of tour meeting. And all this was prior to the actual notices going out for this meeting today. Those notices did go out to all property owners within 300 feet on September 7th. And as you can see there, we have received quite a bit of opposition. We did receive 5 calls, 3 emails, and 3 petitions with a total of 197 signatures in opposition, as well as 2 letters in opposition. So again, based on all the points I presented today, staff is recommending approval with the following conditions. So first and foremost, that bridge be constructed, providing the access for tractor trailers, that 2-axle vehicles and emergency vehicles be allowed to access the property from Socorro Road. So that'll include your delivery type vehicles as well as emergency vehicles. We don't want to restrict those from having a secondary access. And also that vehicle ingress and egress from Socorro Road shall be a right-in, right-out type design. So you get away from having to cross for people turning left, having to cross oncoming traffic, making it much more safer design. And of course, all of this is subject to TxDOT approval, since Socorro is a TxDOT right-of-way. The extra wide building setback along the residential side of 50 feet, as well as the 8-foot masonry wall placed along that residential side, along with that 10-foot landscape buffer. Again, all mitigation measures to help with the noise, along with the actual siting of the building that'll serve as a natural noise buffer. In terms of the chances of this use ever changing, it is C4, which would allow entertainment type businesses, bars. We are imposing a condition to prevent the clustering of those types of businesses. So if at any time a bar or an establishment deriving their profit 51% or more from alcohol sales, and including outdoor amplified sound, those establishments will be required to have a 500-foot separation. Again, working to avoid the problems that we've seen throughout the city when these types of businesses kind of conglomerate right next to each other, foreseeing any potential changes later on down the road. Also, what we heard from the neighborhood in terms of auto-related uses and residential apartments, they were not looking forward to that, so those uses are being prohibited on this property. This property will not allow any type of auto-related uses or residential or any type of apartment type of uses. And then the detailed site plan, which was presented, is required prior to the issuance of certificate of occupancy. And again, the site plan is to show and ensure and verify that everything we're talking about, all the design aspects, all the conditions are being captured on this property, on this development. The site plan is binding. Any and all building permits submitted will have to comply with the proposed design shown on the detailed site plan. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
Yes, sir.
Commissioners, any questions for staff, for Mr. Garcia? I do have a question.
Yes, go for it.
The address of this property will be Socorro or Carl?
Right now, the address is off of Socorro Road, 9614 Socorro Road. It's important to note that doesn't prohibit any other additional type of access from some other right-of-way.
But officially, it's on Socorro
Correct,
Road.
yes, sir,
Okay.
for addressing purposes.
And the in and out of this facility into Socorro Road, was that explained to the neighborhoods and everybody involved on how you just, when you exit it, you got to go right on Socorro?
Correct.
That was-
Yes, yeah, that was part of the public information discussion that happened as part of those public meetings.
Any other questions?
Commissioner Hanson, you talked about TxDOT and the Americas and investment because of the Zaragoza Bridge, or no, it's unrelated?
No, it's definitely related to the changes happening in this area.
Okay.
Before these changes happened, TxDOT maybe had some plans, they were never implemented. As soon as the Amazon facility was situated, that project was fast-tracked. I believe it's, if not complete, almost complete, providing those frontage roads off of Americas, which has helped the truck traffic in this area. And then combine that with the city improvements on Wind Road, the extension of Wind Road, everything to address that cross-border trade and traffic that happens between our two countries.
So will the approval of the new foreign trade zone mean that it's likely that there's TxDOT improvements to Socorro Road? Continuing on to the area of concern?
In terms of Socorro Road, that's a difficult situation for the state. There's no more right-of-way. They would have to go through some sort of acquirement of property. It's just narrow. So that's something that that would be a TxDOT project, but it is something that they are having a hard time to attempt to address.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ms. Gallardo, Commissioner Gallardo?
Yes. In a slide, you indicated the number of signatures in a petition.
Correct.
How many were there? 100?
97.
There were 97.
197.
197.
Correct.
Okay, so let's say 200. So how many residents are there in and around that area? So out of how many
Right.
did 197?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. That's something that we're actually still vetting, still looking at. We did receive it earlier this week. So that's something that we need to verify, make sure, everything is correct. Make sure there's no duplicates. Make sure the addresses and the owners match up. All that is being looked at currently. It is important, I do want to note, in terms of a 211 status, that would apply to city council only. It would not apply to city plan commission, but if 211 status is reached, that would come into effect at the council, when council sees this item.
Thank you.
Commissioner Carrillo, I'm sorry. No,
According to the report, it says potential adverse effects, none. There are none anticipated. There are 38 docking doors for trucks and 132 parking spaces, so
Mhm.
I wonder how the report found there will be no adverse effect from sound pollution or air pollution.
So that's why you see the conditions in terms of the extra improvements that are being imposed on this property, the access restriction to mitigate and I don't know if we can completely eliminate, but at least minimize as much as we can any potential adverse impacts on the residential neighborhood. On the other side, everything's already industrial and trucking facilities.
So is it more correct to say there is going to be some adverse
I'm sorry?
effect instead of none?
I can't say that, sir.
Well, the report says none, so.
If I might, Kevin Smith with Planning Inspections, that item, let me go down to it.
That's on the top of page 4.
Page 4, okay. So that's looking at adverse effects. There's one that's talking about natural environment. One of the things that we cannot require is a pollution study or anything like that. That is something that cannot be required of the applicant or a proposal of this nature. A lot of the impacts, if this was a straight C4 with no conditions, there would obviously be some potential adverse effects. And so that's why staff is recommending a number of those conditions. One of the major which is Socorro Road. We know the condition of it is substandard, And that is not a city facility that we can't go in there and do those improvements. That's a TxDOT facility, so they have to do that. So we understand and we agree that traffic, specifically the truck traffic, has to be diverted to another roadway because that is already overburdened and the condition is severely substandard. But that is, again, a TxDOT matter that the city has no role in that.
And that's why we're requesting they build that bridge from that other roadway.
Yes, correct. And that is a condition. We heard loud and clear from the neighborhood that that is one of their large, I don't want to say large, I don't want to speak for the neighborhood, but that was one of their concerns that they brought up. And so we feel that is being met or addressed by the condition, which is a significant condition to require the applicant to build a bridge traversing a 150-foot drainage facility.
And I think that's clear. That will mitigate the risk of traffic congestion, but it will not mitigate the effect of air pollution.
This is the city,
Yeah, just to be clear.
yeah,
that's what the
no,
code says, yeah.
agreed,
Yeah.
agreed. But that is something we cannot take into
Okay.
consideration.
So I have a question about Plan El Paso. Does it have guidelines for areas like this that serve as buffer zones between residential and commercial areas?
Again, Plan El Paso is a general plan that
Mhm.
looks at the city as a whole, so it doesn't get into the details of that.
Got it.
That is where, as these individual applications come before the commission,
Mhm.
that is something that we look at, what's the proposed zoning requests,
Mhm.
and then to further along with that, what are appropriate conditions to help mitigate the impact that a potential development may have with its neighbors.
Mhm. And so will the master plan, it's under development again next year, is that true?
The comprehensive plan?
Yes. Is that related to the master plan, that the Plan El Paso?
That is my understanding, but again, that is just an update, and
Right.
that's not in effect. Council has
Mhm.
approved what is before you, at least in
Got it.
terms of the future land use map.
Okay. So to be clear, there's no guidelines within Plan El Paso for zones that serve as buffer areas between residential and industrial, commercial areas?
Correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Gorski?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to comment, I also went around to the area earlier again this afternoon, and I just followed the streets of the addresses that are on the petition. And in its own right, it's a very isolated area. But the difficulty of getting crisscrossed in the area is not easy because the way the streets are structured. You have two major streets that are parallel and the cross streets between them. And you can't go one more block over because it is, you can't figure out how to get there unless you have an aerial drone out there. But it is very, very isolated in there. And the 150-foot wide drainage canal down there is, it's another major buffer between the areas.
Any more questions, commissioners? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Garcia. Now we'll hear from the applicant.
Good afternoon. My name is Octavio Saavedra, and I'm the president and owner of EP Logistics, and Sepaco, who is the applicant. And I just want to say that this has been a long process. I appreciate the work from the planning division. They've been very helpful of guiding us through the process. Also my architects, Gilda, Chris, and Al back here. Also want to thank the community for their feedback. We made a large investment as the owner of the company of making changes to the plans to really listen to the community. I'm from El Paso. I'm not a developer. I'm a business owner. I'm not there to build a building and profit off of it, but this is a building that I'm going to be using as my headquarters. And so this is down and dear to my heart. When I was scouting the area as to what available land was available around there, the gentleman that owned that farmland you know, in fact, I have also my real estate broker here with me. He can talk a little bit more later about why we selected that particular land, is because there really isn't any other land that suits the needs for the type of building that we were looking for. Yes, there are pieces of land, but they're not large enough, and/or they're owned by the water district, and the water district only leases those facilities. So, a little bit more by myself. Again, I'm a business owner. I started the company in 2005, and I put a little video together so you can see what type of company we are. I know you mentioned about Amazon.
I created EP Logistics. I created EP.
The economic growth in El Paso is happening, right? And we're running out of space. This is probably one of the last properties that were available, and we were lucky enough to be able to pick it up. I never anticipated that this long process was going to happen, but I'm here. I listened to the community. We made all of the necessary changes within reason and with what the city allows us to do. And again, El Paso's my home. I'm also a member of the Borderplex Alliance, which we continue to attract industry into this area, and me experiencing this difficult process has been kind of a difficult process for me as a business owner. Invested a lot of time into this, and I hope you guys see that we have made and taken into consideration the comments from the community, from the city, and here we are. So please see this video, and we'll take it from there. I don't know.
I created EP Logistics back in 2006 with 5 employees. And today we have 250 employees in Mexico and 60 employees in the US.
We're a one-stop shop on a regional basis for many companies throughout the world, anything from a 5-pound box to a 20,000-pound crate.
We're getting prepared with the right people, the right equipment, and having all the systems in place to make sure that this company continues to grow while still maintaining the high quality of service to our clients.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us. We're here to discuss plans for our new industrial warehouse on Socorro Road. We value open communication and invite you to learn about our business.
Octavio Saavedra, with a career spanning over 30 years, founded the company in February 2005. The company remains locally owned and has evolved into a global freight agent, operating extensively along the southern border of the United States and northern Mexico. It has earned an exceptional reputation for unwavering client loyalty, boasting a diverse portfolio of over 120 clients. Beyond business and management, the company is deeply committed to its community and embraces diversity as a core value. Recognizing the significance of promoting inclusivity and making a positive contribution to the regions it serves. The services we offer encompass various areas. Ocean freight, we specialize in secure and efficiency cargo transport for imports and exports. Trucking USA and Mexico, our reliable overland transportation spans both countries, ensuring punctual deliveries. Cross-border transportation, we simplify international cargo movement, handling customs clearance and regulatory compliance. Warehousing USA and Mexico, our secure facilities cater to diverse storage needs on both sides of the border. Customs brokerage, our experts expedite customs procedures, ensuring a smooth clearance process. With these services, we aim to provide comprehensive logistics solutions that meet specific requirements efficiently and professionally. How will this rezone benefit your neighborhood? Enhancing security, CTPAT certification ensures improved security measures for a safer community. Economic growth, attracting businesses, thus stimulating economic growth and generating approximately 100 new employment positions through EP Logistics. Beautification of Socorro Road, the proposed enhancements, including tree-lined landscaping, align with historic district guidelines, enhancing the visual appeal of Socorro Road. Boosting local businesses, attracting new businesses, and potential expansion of existing ones will increase commercial activity. Trailer traffic management, our investment in a dedicated bridge on Carl Longema Road, exclusively designed for trailer traffic, will eliminate the presence of EP Logistics trucks on Socorro Road. This strategic move alleviates traffic concerns, reinforces safety, reduces maintenance costs, and elevates residents' overall quality of life. Environmental responsibility, a commitment to reducing the carbon footprint and maintaining a pleasing environment, benefits the entire community. We are firmly committed to environmental sustainability, and we actively demonstrate this commitment through the implementation of eco-friendly practices. These initiatives include the adoption of electric forklifts and trailers aimed at reducing emissions and improving air quality. Additionally, we plan on constructing an 8-foot rock wall to effectively mitigate noise levels. Our business operations are from Monday to Friday, from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., ensuring no disruptions during evenings and weekends.
Please give special attention to our drone footage showcasing an aerial view of 9614 Socorro Road.
This is the beginning of Socorro Road. We took a drone so you can actually see, the actual Socorro Road. So it's going towards the actual land, and the land's gonna be right after this trailer parking area right here on the right. So right after you see these trailers on the right, then that's where the land starts, right there. Right in there. I know some of you took a tour, and I appreciate that. Drove around that area. I really appreciate that, taking the time to do that. There's one more video after this. Now this video gives you an aerial, a better perspective of what's around that particular area, right? And if you take linear square footage around it, it's mostly industrial, and there's a short area in the back where it meets the neighborhood, which is about 4 homes. Now, here's where the bridge is going to be built. We're coming up on it, so it's further up here. So what you see on the left is the Pan American Industrial Park, and what's on the right is the neighborhood. As you mentioned, there's the canal itself is about 150 feet. Altogether, it's close to 350 feet, so there's plenty of space between the neighborhood and the industrial park, right? And here where the neighborhood ends, that's the beginning of the property, right there in that corner, that pole. And that's where the bridge is gonna be built, or estimated to be built, right? As you can see on the left, it's industrial, and the back is industrial. And this leads into 375. So all the truck traffic will no longer go through Socorro Road. All the trailer traffic will go on this road, the Carl Meyer Road, into 375, or they go to Mexico to Wynn Road, to the back. Again, that's the property. There's a small home in there that obviously is part of the property. It's abandoned, so we're gonna take that down. I think that's a restaurant right there. And then this is the part where it connects with the neighborhood. This is where we plan on building the 8-foot rock wall, plus giving the additional ponding space, plus it's gonna have the employee parking there to minimize the noise, if any. And then you have the building, and all the truck traffic is on the back of the building. And that was something that was recommended by the community. It was difficult to do, but we were able to make things fit. That's the part where the trailers for this property are gonna be backed up against more trailers. And
We appreciate your time and attention. Let us know if you have any questions or concerns. Thank you.
thank you for.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
Commissioner Hanson. So, from what I understand about these kind of logistics centers, are they going to be parking their trucks and leaving the load and waiting for somebody else to come pick it up? Are they going to be coming in for an hour and leaving immediately? What is the flow of traffic going to be time-wise?
Yeah, good question. Typically, we don't own trucks. We are a freight forwarder, meaning that, or a customs broker. So that was one of the questions raised also by the community. Typically, we're not like the old warehouses and so on. We're very modern with it. Some of the things that you saw in the video, all of our equipment is electric to keep the emissions and the health of all our employees inside. And outside, we're moving towards also electric tractors if we need to be moving trailers around. However, the trucks that come in and drop off loads, that's what they do. They come in, drop off a load, and leave. And we schedule appointments with them. We have a person that coordinates appointment, and that helps us both ways. One, it allows us to provide us with the right labor force to be able to unload them when they get there. So that's why we do appointments, because if you don't do appointments, then you'll have 10, 12 trucks lined up, and Carl Meyer in this case, lined up idling. So this eliminates or reduces that particular problem. So when they come in, they have an appointment, and then we're able to schedule them in, they get unloaded, and they leave. Right?
And that's a system that you already have done. You've already, how large are you scaling your business up? Because you're going from your current EP Logistics to this much bigger warehouse. Do you have a different EP Logistics?
Our actual EP Logistics is right there in Pan American. Mm-hmm. So it's probably about 3-4 blocks away from this lot. And currently, that's how we manage it. And one of the things that we did is the community outreach. We invited the community to come out and see how we operate. The turnout honestly was disappointing. But the people that did go got to see firsthand how we manage the truck traffic. They were also concerned about the noise, but there wasn't much noise, and of any, because we also operate from 8 to 6. So in the evenings, there's absolutely no, and we don't operate on weekends either. That's what we, are doing today, and that's what we plan on doing in that facility as well.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for all the modifications you've made to minimize harm to the community. And I think that's one of the core issues, that a lot of these projects that involve the community are finding ways to minimize harm instead of to maximize benefit. So that requires a paradigm shift in how we plan cities and how we do development, I think. So if this is not rezoned in your favor, do you have any plans? What are your plans to do with the property?
I guess I'll cross that bridge when I have to, but at this point, I don't have any plans for that property other than this.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Rep.
If I may, Mr. Chair, just real quick for housekeeping. Mr. Saavedra, do you agree with the staff comments?
Do I agree with what?
The staff comments?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Saavedra.
Thank you.
Can we hear from the Historic Commission? Because there's some historic there. No?
We have a representative from our Historic Preservation Officer from the city. She's here from staff, but I'm not sure if you're referring to the public.
No, not the public.
Not the public. We have our Historic Preservation Officer here. Yes, Ms. Providencia Velasquez.
Yes, please. Ms. Velasquez, thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Provi Velasquez, the Historic Preservation Officer. So if you have any questions, please go ahead.
My question is, that area that's historic, what's so historic about it?
Yeah, I really was hoping you were going to ask that. Because as you can see, the district has some very unusual boundaries. And you notice that the entire parcel is not designated as historic, only 150 feet from the center of Socorro Road. There are a lot of properties on there. There are historic. They have very interesting histories, quite a few adobe structures in the area as well. The Mission Trail was designated, I think, mostly to protect the mission itself and the various adobe properties and historic properties around it. So the boundaries aren't very neat and tidy. They kind of go in and out. They cover some areas and some areas they don't. In a case like this, I think the reason that we have those boundaries is to make sure that development would be coordinated and would be in keeping and compatible with the surrounding area. But as you can see, the boundary is actually very narrow. In truth, most of that area along Socorro Road should have really been a scenic transportation corridor and not really a historic district. But it is what it is, and we take care of it.
Now, does the historic area starts right there?
No, I think the boundary of this district goes up until it meets Socorro, if memory serves.
Yeah, but going towards 375.
375. I would have to take a look at the map, sir. As I
Okay.
said, the boundaries are a little wonky.
Okay,
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Any other
Actually,
questions?
Kevin Smith with Planning Inspections, I can actually answer that. I have the map up right now. It actually goes into the city up until roughly Zaragoza. And again, like Provi mentions, it jogs into some
Okay.
different configurations. But roughly about where Socorro intersects with Zaragoza.
Any other questions? Nope. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, now we'll move into the public comment. We have quite a few people, again, 3 minutes each. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the in-person people first. We have Ms. Eva Vielma. Do we have a translator?
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Eva Vielma, president of the Valle de las Misiones Neighborhood Association desde 2005, 18 years ago. Por 18 años hemos logrado un vecindario pacífico, sin problemas, nos respetamos todos. Durante 1 año y medio, el señor Saavedra vino a conmocionar nuestra vida con su proyecto. En 1 año y medio que llegó ese aviso a mi casa, nada más a mi casa, diciéndome su plan de él. Inmediatamente yo me comuniqué con el ingeniero García, con el ingeniero Piña, y le mandé las razones por las que nos oponemos, que se las puedo presentar a ustedes en escrito, como se las mandé a él. Se las mandé a ellos. En la última junta que tuvimos, la señorita arquitecta dijo que ellos no sabían nada de esa carta. Después de 1 año y medio, no era mi responsabilidad. La responsabilidad era de los ingenieros, cuando yo hablo con ellos me dicen que sí se la hicieron llegar. Ahora, el señor Saavedra le dijo que tuvimos 3 juntas comunitarias. Perdone, estoy mala de mis pulmones. La primera junta fue iniciada por la asociación y nosotros los invitamos a ellos en Sun Metro Station. Allí no llegamos a ningún acuerdo. La segunda y la tercera la hicimos en la estación de policía en Escobar y Zaragoza. Tampoco llegamos a ningún acuerdo. Ahora, ellos pidieron este meeting, aquí estamos presentes, respondiendo, si me lo permiten, que la sección 2102, que nunca se les avisó a los demás vecinos. Ahorita acaba de decir el señor Saavedra que mandaron cartas a los vecinos. Miente porque de 1 cuadra nada más 3 vecinos tienen carta. Segunda cosa que está mintiendo, que él hizo una invitación a su negocio de la Pan American. Fueron 3 personas. ¿Qué le dice a usted, señor Borrego? ¿Que están de acuerdo o no están de acuerdo los vecinos? Era para que se le hubiera llenado su meeting. 3 people de 200 personas. Ahora, permítanme darle la lista, porque parece ser que la señorita a quien se les hizo llegar, ¿no la tienen ustedes en su email? Las listas de oposición. ¿Sí las tiene? Porque yo las tengo. ¿Por qué no llegaron a sus manos? Esto se mira algo turbio.
You've reached your 3 minutes.
Ya llegó sus 3 minutos.
Ok, nada más
Gracias.
quiero que sepa que las firmas están y las cartas también están. Muchas gracias.
Can we translate that, please? We need to translate that.
So, for one, is staff was not requested a translator ahead of time, and we're not official translators, just for the record.
Ms. Hanson, do you need that translated?
I think I understood enough of it to just, the last part, so she was saying that, what were the 2 points that she had our email and we didn't sign them?
That the emails were not given to us,
The emails were not given, and what
to
was,
us, the commissioners.
We submitted
Okay.
everything yesterday to,
Point of order,
I'm sorry.
please. You'll have your time,
Yes.
okay? Ms. Saavedra, I'm sorry. Ms.
It's
Bielma,
okay.
ya se le acabaron sus 3 minutos.
Bueno, nada más le quiero decir que...
Sí, pero
que-
ya no podemos. 3 minutos.
¿Puedo darle la
Okay.
carta?
Désela a Mr. Smith, por favor.
And to the commission, we can respond to the public comment probably after the public comment has
Right.
been received. Thank you.
Okay, our next one is Mr. Javier Paz. You got 3 minutes, sir.
Hi, my name is Javier Paz, Senior Policy Advisor for Commissioner Eliana Holguin, County Commissioner. Just to reiterate what happened, we submitted all 197 signatures yesterday and letters, and according to Mr. Smith, everyone should have their in your boxes, so I'm not sure if that happened or not, but if that, hopefully it did. Going back to all the points, speaking on behalf of what the commissioner had said earlier, this is a distinctive area. It's not, the canal does separate the Pan American area, which is all industrial, that goes back to the foreign trade area. That is true, that is, the warehouse district out of Horizon, it's its own, Amazon has its own, but the Socorro Road area is its own unique historic district per El Paso, not just El Paso County historical documents that have from Isleta Mission all the way to San Isidro Mission, the 9-mile corridor, but the city does recognize it from the Zaragoza Mission. To answer your question, what makes the historical is the missions up to the end of the city. The Mission Trail Alliance in the moment is why it's important, why we believe this should not go through, is because it does not fit the Mission Trail Alliance protocols of wanting to lure smaller businesses, economic tourism. This is a big warehouse, does not fit the mold of the Mission Trail Alliance. We currently have EDC grants out that are specifically for small business opportunities for the federal government. We also have appropriations from Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, specifically for small businesses that are going along the 9-mile corridor. So we hope to continue to keep this historic trend, not warehousing that is going to contribute to the health, the health care of the underprivileged community that lives next door, the noise, the pollution, the idling that's going to continue. So this is an opportunity for this commission to set a precedent and to stop this application from going forward in this historic district, and not move forward in the 9-mile corridor. There is already one north of this proposed application. We hope to see that was the last warehousing. We want to encourage small business economic development for this historic district and not warehousing. And lastly, the cars, they have not still given us a solution to all their 90 employees. Their cars are supposed to go into Socorro. They're not allowed to go into Isleta. Where are those cars going to go? They're going to be trafficked in. It's already bumper to bumper. As they mentioned earlier, TxDOT doesn't have any plans to fix the road. So it's already a bumper to bumper road. What are we going to do with all that 90 additional vehicles being sent into Socorro? Are they going to turn another mission trail?
3 minutes.
And we do have the 197 signatures for review. 168 from the community.
Thank you, Mr. Paz.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, Mr. Rudy Cruz. Oh, I'm sorry, Rudy Cruz is on the phone. 1 second. Arturo de la Mora, are you here? Yes, sir. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Well, first and foremost, I want to thank everybody, the commission, representatives, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the time in considering this project. My name is Arturo de la Mora. I'm a senior vice president with CBRE. I have a focus on landlord and tenant representation assignments for industrial real estate on both sides of the border, Juarez and El Paso, Texas. The site in question, it's located in one of the areas in El Paso with most demand. El Paso today is ground zero for nearshoring. There is over 4.5 million square feet of construction on spec development by developers from out of town. In this particular case, as Mr. Octavio alluded to, his effort to grow his business, someone that is from El Paso, to create local jobs. So I hope that we see this as a benefit to the community, businesses that are being created in the community for the community. Last but not least, there were questions about availability of land, and the reality is very, very hard challenge. It's very challenging in today's environment to compete and find land that has the right size, right configuration to be able to have an operation that is efficient. In this particular case, I believe Mr. Octavio Saavedra made many modifications to the facility to show input from the community was taken into account without compromising the efficiency of the operation. Without further ado, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Ms. Marcy Carrillo.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Marcela Carrillo, and I represent the Mission Valley Civic Association. I attended some of these meetings, and I do agree that this area isn't an area that would be, supporting with all this traffic. Socorro Road, I was amazed to see this video and how there wasn't any traffic. I live in the Mission Valley, and I go down that road often, and that traffic is bumper to bumper. In addition, I'm against this because we do have neighborhoods, and I can compare this neighborhood to Clark. I have an aunt who lives on Clark and on Tampa and Clark, and they started growing the city, of course. And now you look at that area, and nobody can come in or out because it has the same logistics as this. So I'm opposed, and I stand with the young lady who spoke earlier. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker will be Ernesto Robali. Robali? I don't know if he's in person or on the phone.
He's one of the neighbors that lives right in the four homes. Unfortunately, he wasn't able, he had an appointment ran late, but
All right. Okay.
he was
Thank
here in
you.
support.
All right, let's go to the phone now. No, last one, Ms. Fabiola Campos Lopez. She's here in person. You got 3 minutes, ma'am.
Yes. Good afternoon, CPC members, staff, and Neighborhood Association members, and the owner. I'm Fabiola Campos Lopez. I'm the current chairperson for El Paso Neighborhood Coalition, and I'm also president of the Corridor 20 Civic Association in the Mission Valley. Corridor 20 Civic Association opposes this rezoning case for the property located 9164 Socorro Road. The mission of our association is to support only responsible growth that is sensible and respectful of the established neighborhoods. This case is contrary to these values. We support the opposition from the community surrounding this proposed rezoning case. As we all know, the right of the current property owner of this property in question is to existing property zone, which is ranch and farm. The community's right is to consider the impact this new rezoning request will bring to the area. They have spoken sound and loud, and in a couple of meetings we have attended, their answer has always been opposing for the risk of their health, safety, and heavy traffic hazards. No C4 is suitable in any of us neighborhoods to be next and across any residential area in any part of the city. Unsurprisingly, Socorro Road's conditions are hazard, precarious, and heavy traffic with no sidewalks or conditions to sustain this type of traffic from C4 development next and across from residential area. It is mentioned the existence of a couple of lots already zoned C4 from the Americas and starting off Socorro Road, and it is true. Still, it is also true that these two lots were rezoned in the early 1990s. And when this city realized that these type of developments will have the possibility to invade Socorro Road, a historical corridor, the Mission Trail historical guidelines were created by the middle of the 1990s. Then residential areas were welcomed, and the Valle de las Misiones Neighborhood Association started years later. They have been actively working to protect the safety and health of their neighborhoods and neighbors. The plans presented had been arranged in different ways. The HLC dictated this last one based on the Mission Trail historical guidelines, which were never shown in public meetings. The rearrangements were different, but at the end of the day, the zone request is the same, C4. No C4 is compatible next to residential areas. The industrial area is out of this lot, passing 150 feet wide Franklin Canal. The plans for the MPO are to remove in the near future the industrial part from the Zaragoza port of entry and relocate close to the Tornillo and Santa Teresa port of entry. Your recommendations of denial and support to community will set a precedent for developing our historical spaces appropriately. How much are we willing to give up from a historical corridor for the benefit of only one new property
You've reached your 3
owner?
minutes, ma'am. Thank
Just
you.
in time. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to the phone. Mr. Rudy Cruz, are you in line? *6. Mr. Cruz?
If Mr. Cruz is not here, I also have a email that we received late yesterday. I'd like to read in the record as well from Mr. Cruz,
Okay.
if you'd like to do
Thank
that.
you. Yes, please.
Okay. So this is from Rudy Cruz Jr., Mission Trail Alliance Chair. It states, honorable members of council, as chair of the Mission Trail Alliance, I would like to encourage development, but the development I encourage is one of historic preservation and beautification. This can only be done through the effort of studies. These studies have been conducted by multiple researchers and engineering firms. These studies will show that the Mission Trail is one with high density traffic. TxDOT has already decreased its speed limit along the corridor because of the accidents caused by motor vehicles. Those affected are pedestrians walking to sites with historical significance or small businesses. I ask that you consider the issues of commercial property conversion along the Mission Trail and the type of business operations for future planning. The current condition of the roadway at risk cannot and will not support truck and trailer business operations along the trail. Many entities pertaining to the city of El Paso have strengthened strong and positive efforts in order to make the Mission Trail what it once was. Do not erase the hard work, man hours, and funding resources that have been invested in our community, our historical corridor, and the future of what El Paso really stands for. Very respectfully, Rudy Cruz Jr., Mission Trail Alliance Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you, Mr. Cruz. On the phone, Al Borrego. Are you there, sir? Mr. Borrego? And just so you know, we share the same name and last name, but we're not related. We have tried to make a connection for about 10, 15 years, and we haven't. Just so you know. Mr. Borrego, are you on the line?
Again, *6 to unmute your phone.
I guess he's not on the line. All right, now we move to, on the phone, Mayor Leeser. Mr. Mayor? He would know how to do the *6, right? Mr. Mayor, are you online? On the phone? No? All right, well, if he's not on the line, then we move on. All right, that's the end of the public comment. Seeing that, now this case comes before us. We have it in our hands, commissioners.
So, Mr. Chair, if I might just address a number of the comments that were provided by the public. So notices were sent to the property owners within 300 feet. So again, all property owners within 300 feet were notified of the Plan Commission as per our typical practices, and they're given an opportunity to provide comment either through written, verbal, or to also given the details of this meeting here as well.
The staff does a good job when they present all this information to give us a circle of 300 feet of all of them that touches.
Yeah, and that map is included in your backup as well. All comments were received, except for the letter I read into the record. All other comments and the petitions were included in the backup and were provided to you either a week ago when the agenda was posted or yesterday when a revised backup was provided. Again, this lies within the city of El Paso. Okay, so the city of El Paso is the one that has jurisdiction, although other interested parties may be here and they can provide public comment. This lies within the city of El Paso, and final approval would be through the city council of the city of El Paso. Again, it was traffic was brought up. No traffic impact study was required on this application. Partially, I believe, due to the conditions that are requested by staff. So again, where the truck traffic is diverted to Carl Longmire, and only the residential traffic would be, not the residential, I apologize, the business, personal vehicles would be off of Socorro Road.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. He might want to add something else.
And then, Mr. Chair, I believe the applicant's representative, or the owner's representative does have a presentation, if you'd like to consider that, but I'll leave it up to the commission.
Sure. Let's hear it all.
I'll wait for them to pass that around, please. Okay. Good afternoon, Commissioner, Chairman, and everybody involved here. Thank you for listening to us. What I put together, the intent was Mr. Saavedra to give you a little bit of input as the business owner, what his company is about and how it operates. The presentation that I'm going to go ahead and show to you, which matches the documents that were given to you, is more of how it was developed, design-wise, code-wise, ordinance that we have to follow, the fire department, all of that it entails. The first page that you see here is how the site plan has developed. We have what was presented on the first community meeting, then the second, the third, and ultimately what is presented today to you. Correct, the fourth one was not addressed as an additional community meeting, but that was a recommendation that was given that at that point we had to come in front of you. Okay. This is the invitation that was received or given out for the first community meeting, which is correct. It was initiated by the office of Mr. Rivera. We received the invitation and we attended, where we reviewed the first site plan. Okay, this is the first site plan. As you can see here, the only entrance was off of Socorro for the trailers, for vehicles. Everything was coming off of Socorro. The facility footprint doesn't change that much, but we did have the truck court facing the neighborhood. It was approximately 300 feet away from the neighborhood, but it was facing their side. We do not have a signing sheet of the first meeting because it was done and coordinated by Mr. Rivera's office, so we do not have one. This is a signing sheet of the second meeting that we had. This is a presentation that was given in, it was printed out for them, and it was also showed to them. We went through it English and Spanish, all of the slides, just to make sure that everybody understood what we were trying to address. The intent of this presentation was to respond or address all the comments that we got off of the first meeting, which, yes, they did voice a concern. The first one, and I think the one that everybody kept bringing up, was the trailer traffic off of Socorro. After that, we did receive some comments in favor, in the sense that they were interested in knowing how many jobs openings there would be, what type of job opportunity they would have, that it would benefit them or their family. So we had both things, but yes, we did not reach an agreement. So at this point here, we clarified the facility that's already industrial next to us is more of a trailer parking facility, so that operates 24/7. So their understanding was that this would be the same scenario. So we went ahead here and clarified the hours of operation of the facility, that it is not a 24/7, not on the weekends, more or less the amount of jobs and the type of jobs that would be offered once it would open. This is a larger view of the area. As you can see, correct, everything off of the Franklin Drain is already Pan American, is industrial, but we also have C4 and industrial in the same area where we are. You could say that we're the last lot before the residential starts and goes further down along Socorro. This is an elevation at that moment of what we were proposing, so we could show the courtyard that would be facing Socorro inside of the historical district. This is what also was ultimately reviewed and approved on the first HLC meeting. That's what was also presented, and they would match and concur. This is a color site plan, just so it would be easier to delineate all the landscape buffer that we had in the front, that we had along the neighborhoods, the 8-foot rock wall, the 6-foot rock wall that was approved by HLC, which 2 feet of that is masonry, 4 feet is wrought iron. And at this point, obviously, the main one that we want to bring in was when we incorporated the bridge. It took time from our first meeting to the second because it entailed a lot of review structural-wise. We had to reach out to a structural engineer. The drain is pretty wide, 150, obviously the weight of the trailers. So we did need a lot of time, reach out to who it belonged to, and all that process. But at that moment, we were able to present it and reflect that it would. It is approximately around $1 million just for the bridge, but Mr. Saavedra was willing to do it and understood the concern of all those trailers going off of Socorro. At this point also, we did address the concern of the vehicles exiting out of the property if they would go left to go to the freeway or right. Mr. Saavedra does not have a preference. We had reflected at a point that they could go either way. Some comments came back that they would try and cut in. That could be a liability there. So we showed an island to force them to go to the right. We did get a feedback that was also, some of them did not prefer that because then they would turn around further down. But ultimately, the owner does not have an issue with how the community prefers to address it. They requested or mentioned a stoplight there would be good. We did forward that to TxDOT, but ultimately it's up to them, not to us. And also the location or the width of the driveway. This is another view of the property in comparison to what is existing and then how it will look for the development. We have a landscape buffer in the front. It was mainly landscape. The building has never been inside the historical district, and we did that to try and alleviate that it is a warehouse. So we didn't move it forward to the front. So it's completely out of the historical district. This is another side view, again, existing condition, and then how it will look with the building. Perspective views of the design at that point. This is a landscape table. We've always shown one to ensure that we are meeting the minimum required and additional. We exceeded, but we went ahead and showed that table and the design of the rock wall that was approved by HLC. Another courtyard view. Okay, and then this is a more, the detailed site plan review at that point is not done in color, but it reflects the exact same information. This is the invite that Mr. Saavedra did after the second meeting. So the second meeting occurred on July 15, and the open house was August 16. He and some of his employees, his family, walked the area to distribute it. I believe some were mailed out, but the immediate 300 radius that we were indicated by city that we had to address, they walked them and personally went ahead and invite everybody in. Correct, I attended, only 3 showed up. We don't necessarily consider that it's because they're against it. It could also mean they're in favor and there was nothing for them to look, or also that some may not have neither opposition or favor for it. The 3 that did attend, it was very gorgeous. They had questions. They were impressed on how it operates. They went ahead and moved a forklift so they could see that the electrical forklifts really don't put out a lot of noise, all of that. At that point, this is the signing sheet from our third community meeting. And that one occurred, it is August 19. This is what we presented on that third one. This was also brought back into HLC with the intent that we went ahead and pushed the warehouse as far as possible from the residential to try and alleviate that and and based off of the comment, we pushed it as far as we could, but that created us having to move the parking out. As mentioned, yes, it was not approved by HCC because parking is not allowed on that portion of their guidelines, which then created another design. But this is what was presented at that point. And now, here we go. That's a comparison. That was the last one that was presented for the community. We got the same comments more or less, which was still the concern about idling, concern about noise. Really, you could say the comments have been more or less the same since the beginning up to where we are right now. On this design now, we went ahead and flipped completely the building so that way the truck court faces the existing commercial industrial facility that's next to us. There is approximately 100 feet in between the property line abutting residential and the corner of the building. And I'm talking about the lower bottom corner. As we go up, obviously that distance is a lot more. We are having, obviously, the bridge had to move to, which the exact location will be agreed with El Paso Water. We are in communication with them. The legal has to go through the process of who would have ownership, easement for allowing them access to it, maintain. El Paso Water did confirm what we need to comply in the reference of with clearances and the location of it. The building footprint from the third one to this has not changed. It is still the same square footage. The office is still the same square footage. In the historical area, we went back ahead and put all landscape. We did have a modification from what was approved on HLC, which is originally the rock wall was shown exactly on the property line. On this design, we went ahead and moved the rock wall 20 feet into the property, so he's giving a 20-foot buffer to try and achieve the Mission Trail that is a few blocks further down the street. Off of the video, you could see it. The street does have a trail and trees. Not every area around there has, some don't have any landscape. The properties in front of us have no landscape whatsoever. But the intent of that point would be for us, with that 20-foot buffer, to try and match what they have further down. It has a sidewalk, and the rest is small rock, and obviously landscape. We still left another buffer inside, behind the property wall, so you could say we have a double buffer there. The corner of the building is located about 185 feet from Socorro. That's more or less right now where the facility sits at. This is the elevations, the current elevations that would match that site plan that we're proposing. And here we did incorporate the property conditions that were given to us, as Mr. Garcia has read them earlier. And this is the letter that is correct on the meeting, our second meeting, July 15. Ms. Vielma did question why we had not responded to this letter. I did clarify that I had not received that letter. But by the time this letter in that meeting, in our second meeting, was given to us, we had already addressed all those 5 points, which in that meeting, we went ahead and did that. We weren't able to go through all of them, but we tried to go to the majority of them. Obviously, number one, that Socorro Road is historical. And granted, as just mentioned, there's not a lot visible from it, but we still respect it. We still follow the design. We went ahead and pushed the building away, a lot of landscape. On number 2 here, it's referring mainly to the traffic. 2 and 3 refer to the trailer traffic. So the client agreed to do the bridge. That is it would be a condition also, so we reflect that addressing those points. On number 4, it is noise, but as it mentions right there in the letter, it says at hours of the night. So I think they're referring, or they're considering that facility that's 24/7. Not all of the facilities around there are. Some are, some are not. But we understand that they're referring to that, which now our building will be a big buffer to that facility that operates 24/7. Not only the rock wall, all the landscape, but the actual building would help and mitigate all that noise, and we don't operate 24/7. This is another aerial view to kind of show the lots. Yes, it was brought up to us why he didn't choose another lot in the industrial area, which may be some confusion also. There are vacant lots. Some of them are ponding, though, for those developments, because we have other clients that we're working with them there. And so you may see a vacant lot there, but some are ponds, so those could not be. Some of the properties are only leased, they're not for sale. So there was a lot of time invested by Mr. Saavedra in selecting which one, because ultimately for him, as he mentioned, he is local, it is his local company, so the intent is to buy, to stay there, not down the road sell it and something commercial. We have agreed to the conditions in the sense of commercial or residential. It is a bit confusing for us to address every single comment or try to make obviously everybody happy. They don't want traffic off of Socorro, but at the same time, you're inviting for small businesses. Small businesses require a parking table a lot larger, that you're required for a lot more parking than what industrial is. So if he were to develop a small shopping center there, it is double, triple the amount of vehicle, and at that point, they would all go through Socorro, not just the 94 parking spaces that he has. If it is apartment complex, it's way more parking, besides having 2-3-story buildings next to you. So ultimately, we think it is the type of business that would be the less impact traffic-wise, business-wide. In security, it will bring a lot to them because of the certifications that the facility has to meet for customs. He has very strict security measures has to follow, that would help also feel, and help around the neighborhood to feel a little bit more secure. And I believe that would be it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners. No more speakers, Mr. Smith? Is
None
the
that I'm
mayor on the
aware of.
phone? We'll let him speak if he's on the phone, or Mr. Borrego.
I believe it's up to the commission now.
Okay. It's upon us. I'll entertain a motion, either way.
I would like to have discussion before we make any motions, if possible. So I think
We can
it's-
always have discussion after the
Great.
motion's made, too. If you want to have it before, that's fine.
Great. So I think that there's no question that the developer is proposing lots of modifications to minimize harm. I really commend that. That's fantastic. Industrial warehouses within the city limits do have a knock-on effect. It does invite more truck traffic within the city, more wear and tear on I-10, higher repair costs, more congestion, pollution, and dangerous driving conditions for all El Pasoans. So that's why the Tornillo area does make sense. We're the only place in I think, the world where we have major industrial or commercial truck traffic crossing through our city. And that's going to change. So we do need to plan to put these farther outside the city. So I think moving this kind of development to Tornillo makes more sense. What do you think?
Well, I see where you're going with that, but how can you refute the fact that you've got same type of industry all over that area already? It's developed as an industrial area. This particular company has complied with all requirements. It seems like it has taken quite a bit of time to go through all the motions to get to where we are now and what we're going to vote for now. They've agreed to the conditions. They've even agreed to a very expensive investment to comply with the truck traffic diversion to protect the surrounding neighborhood. They have jumped through all the hoops. They have complied with every single protocol that has been sent to them in order to build out this project. And in all the time that I have sat here as a commissioner, I don't think I have ever been tempted to call an organization that has requested our approval a good corporate citizen. But let me tell you, Mr. Saavedra is very close. He has tried. I think he has gone above and beyond, and we have had this happen maybe once before. to comply with the neighborhood's concerns and to comply with everything the city has asked them to do and then some. A $1 million investment to divert traffic to address that particular concern, I think is really going above and beyond. So that's my position in saying so. I'm sure you know where my vote is going. So if anybody else wants to share.
Ms. Hanson? Commissioner Hanson.
Commissioner Hanson, I very much agree. I think Mrs. Saavedra, I don't know, I'm sorry. I agree. You've done so much. You've gone through so many iterations. And many of the arguments are about traffic, and I think that that's really forgetting the fact that you're taking traffic off of Socorro. Looking at this final page in the packet we were handed, how do y'all know that you're taking traffic, that your trucks will be taking the Slater route and not the Americas route?
Oh, excuse
I don't know
me.
if I'm allowed to ask
Commissioner
questions.
Hanson, no, you're not. This is among us now.
Oh, sorry, never mind. Should we consider the fact that there's a possibility trucks don't actually take those routes? Because they're putting that traffic island in to try to keep trucks from turning left from Socorro. I just wanted to say, is there a negative impact from them using Americas or America Drive?
I think that would I'm sorry, who was good? I think that would still be part of the ongoing compliance through Mr. Saavedra's company to make sure that their trucks are following protocol and are not breaking the plans and the commitments that were made here today.
And I do sincerely commend the collaboration with the community, but there is so much opposition between civic groups, residents, opposing this project on a lot of grounds, because we are just discussing how this will minimize the harm to the community. And that's the limitation of Plan El Paso, I think. There's no guidelines for these kind of areas. But there is an opportunity coming up in the next 2 years to redefine areas like this, where the community is involved, to present a vision that's going to benefit the community, to work with developers. So it's not a failure of the developer right now today. It's a failure of urban planning and of the Plan El Paso, I think. But we have an opportunity today to side with the community, because this project will impact them for decades.
Mr. Chair, if I might.
Yes.
So again, City Council in the past, yes, Plan El Paso was adopted in 2012. In August of this year, they approved the expansion of the foreign trade zone to this site. So obviously, they also felt that it is appropriate for this site, among others within the city of El Paso and the region, to be expanded for the foreign trade zone to further collaborate and encourage trade between the countries.
I agree. And our job is to interface with the community on behalf of
Sure.
City Council and the city, and that's what we're doing today. We're listening to that, making our recommendations to City Council, listening to the community.
Commissioner Gorski.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The actual driving around the site down there, it's more dangerous as far as potholes than just about any other area in El Paso that I've driven in the last year. You can't go very fast, and you've got about 60 or 80 feet width on the backup side streets. I also did not find almost any traffic to speak of on Socorro Road. I pulled off the side, put on the flashers, and then thought, okay, I can open the door and see how close they get to me. It was not maybe a total of 12 vehicles passed me in about 4 minutes. So there's not a lot of traffic out there. As far as an urban planning situation, the city council has taken that area and designated it as an expansion of a international trade site. I don't know how people can push more, say, listen, this has worked. We've been here for 10 years, and it is expanding. We're not, I don't think as a commission, we are not against the development of this area. And yes, it would be nice if it had happened 20 years ago to have this discussion to how you want to master plan it. But it is very difficult, if you drive the area, it is difficult to get from the existing area where the warehouses are on the perimeter of this property on Socorro Road. It is not easy to get to that and to get to the residential neighborhoods. What had me most concerned when driving through the area was that if trucks, 18-wheelers, should have to cross into this maybe 18-foot wide path without curbs or gutters on the sides, no sidewalks, that's a pretty precarious situation. But that's not going to be the case. Who enforces it? The local police department or the local law enforcement would have to be in charge of maintaining the fact that only the vehicles that are on the actual designated routes would use those routes. If you're working from, I believe, 8 to 4 or 8 to 6, were the hours of operation, 5 days a week, that does not sound like it should be a super difficult situation. If it is, it'll be addressed in another way. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Castro, saying?
Just for the sake of adding to what commissioners have already stated, I'm in total agreement with Commissioner Gallardo. I think that, number one, it's commendable to have taken the time to adjust so many times to the project. I think he took into account everything that the community has been saying, and that's really positive to see, and hopefully we can see more of that.
Thank you. Now, let me put my 2 cents worth. When the Pan American's area, commercial area, was designed, they used that drainage ditch as a buffer. That was the actual buffer. Keep all the industrial towards the Mexican side and leave the rest for the residents. That was then. Now, back in 1990s, somebody in council allowed that area, which is west of their property, okay? And then in 2012, city council comes in and carves that little area. Knowing that the buffer is here, we'll cut that little area and go up against the neighborhoods, okay? Now, that's what city council did. Whether it's right or wrong, I think that was wrong, okay? The other thing that I would point out, back in the early 2000s, we developed the neighborhood associations, the recognized neighborhood associations by the city of El Paso for these types of purposes, so that the residents in those neighborhoods that are organized have a say in what happens or what not happens. And here we have presidents that have talked to their associations, and they're against this. I, as a president of an association, have these problems too. I helped create the recognized associations back in the early 2000s for this type of work. This is just a rezoning. These people have lived there for over 30 years. They've lived there. This is our house. And they've lived with the industrial park on the other side of what was supposed to be the buffer zone, which is that irrigation ditch. It was made that way. It was designed that way. Separation. But I know the industrial revolution. Now things take place. And just so you be aware, I'm a business owner. I have a tool and die shop. And I do a lot of business in the maquilas. And I've done business in the maquiladora business industry since 1987. And I understand the logistics of crossing over and back and forth, back and forth. But you know what? I'm also a resident of El Paso. I live here. I have my house, okay? Just like these people do. Nobody, I don't think anybody here would like to have that in their neighborhood. Nobody would. Again, that's what these associations were formed for. Exactly for this. And when they say that they only work 5 days a week from 8 to 5 or whatever time, once they're ready and we know that business is growing, they might have to go 24/7. I mean, we don't know that. He can't foresee that, but hey, The other thing, he said that there wasn't land available. Well, there is land available. It's owned by the Public Service Board. And when that area became an industrial park, well, the Public Service Board got all that land. So they figured, hey, we can make some money off of it. Hey, that's fine. They can lease land. There's other places. There's places north of the freeway. We don't have to encroach on these neighborhoods that have already been there, established. They go in, they go out. They know what it is. And I'm going to push back against Mr. Gorski. I do travel Socorro Road. Man, it is terrible. I hate going there because of the traffic in and out, especially right there, Socorro and 375. It is, and it's only getting worse. And they say that this company won't have tractor trailers going into Socorro Road, but there's other companies further down there that are already, so there's already tractor trailers going through there. What's the balance? I don't know. But we are here as city plan commissioners on a rezoning to balance this. Thank you. All right, so we've all discussed it. Can I entertain a motion?
I think this is our opportunity to provide some vision to the city. They do meet the requirements bureaucratically. I wouldn't commend them for going above and beyond. This is what every developer should be doing. This should be standard practice. And we have the opportunity to ask them to not just minimize harm, but to produce benefit for the community. And because of all the opposition to this project, I make a motion to deny the rezoning.
I second Commissioner Hanson.
We have a motion to deny this and a second. I'm going to open up for discussion real quick because we're already going on 2 hours with this one. Any
Comments?
comments?
I know change is difficult. It is. And I think we all live in areas that have gone through a lot of change that creates traffic, that creates more noise, that creates more pollution. This is the development of a community. To really punish Mr. Saavedra and not allow him to develop in a way that the city allows, that the laws allow, that he has met all of the compliance and all of the conditions that were posed to him, I think is anti-business, which is not good for the city. And we should not take that position. I know where you're coming from, Commissioner Carrillo, and we do have to work on that. And he is trying everything he can to reduce that carbon footprint. That is a start that a lot of industries around that area already are not doing. So shame on us if we're going to punish him, even after going through all of this. And it is allowed that we do not vote yes.
I would like to emphasize we're not punishing, we're just taking care of the community. If you look at the impacts, the consequences of development over the past 20 years in El Paso, we have increased asthma rates, heart disease rates, diabetes. These are chronic diseases caused by pollution. We've had how many days over 100 degrees here in El Paso?
3 months.
45, right? So things are not getting better. It's our opportunity right now to take care of the community, to provide a vision. We're not punishing anybody. We're just asking for more collaboration on ways to benefit the community.
Mr. Gorski.
Russell Aborn, Assistant City Attorney. I'd recommend you all move forward with a vote. I think you've all taken multiple opportunities to discuss the issue.
I was going to give them each one time to say something because there is a motion before us. So, Mr. Gorski, if you can make it quick.
Sure, I agree. This is not a situation we want to punish a developer in this case who's gone bend over backwards. Chair Borrego commented on the 150-foot wide barrier. I don't know if you've been down there. that is a huge pit in the ground that separates the area. It's almost as bad as some of the walls that have gone up along our border in other places between here and another country. And the developer in this case has done everything we have, as the city, have asked him. Scenario has come up in the past. I've been on this commission for 5 months now, and I've seen this situation come up where the forward thinking and the distance out may be more than 2 years, and I've seen votes go where developers have been allowed not to continue with the regular plan development because it's going to be several years out. Well, that's not the scenario. We have a gentleman and a developer, as well as the other individuals involved in this, that have done everything that has been asked of them. It is a compromise. I hate leaving, a big carbon footprint in the path. I'm a member of 2030. Talk about starting that group. You talk about starting uphill. So I'm aware of all of the other implications involved, but I do think in this particular case, as a commission and for the benefit of the developer in this case, and the regulations that will be enforced, is to go ahead and approve it.
Thank you. All right, discussion's over. All those in favor to deny this motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Clarity, Mr.
Sir, can we wait, please?
Clarify.
I just did. All in favor to deny this motion? No, to deny rezoning on number 7.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? We have all against? Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Okay, again, for the commission.
Okay, just for the commission. The motion was made to deny item 7, which is to deny the zoning change. It was seconded by Commissioner Hanson. It was made by Commissioner Carrillo. Okay? So now we're going to vote on it in a roll call. To deny? Borrego, yes.
Carrillo, aye.
That's a 3-3. Motion fails. Unless it's in the form of we've already talked about it. We've already at 2 hours. Unless it's a form of a
No, this is something that
motion.
hasn't been discussed yet, and that is the situation in Juarez. Until we get their cooperation regarding pollution and health hazardous materials, we will never be able to make a dent in El Paso. And to keep the progress of this community going because of something we cannot control is also not the right thing to do.
I'd just like to respond. Research from UTEP has shown, and EPA air quality monitors from the year 2000, 2006 have shown that these monitors were placed in Juarez and El Paso. So researchers confirmed most pollution goes from El Paso to Juarez. Juarez is a much worse state pollution-wise than we are. Air pollution is heavy like water and it sinks into the valley. So that was an incorrect statement, just want to point that out.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Philip Petura, Planning and Inspections. I think you've exhaustively vetted this, among yourself. So your 3-3 vote stands, and remember, you're making a recommendation to City Council. So I think we're ready to move on with your vote of 3-3. Okay?
Okay. So
Thank you.
Okay, fine. All right. What we'll do there is now move to item number 4. And we have Mr. Naranjo. Can we take a 10-minute break? Mr. Naranjo, can you hold on? Can we take a 5-minute break?
It's up to the commission, so There are 4 items, if I
Yeah.
recall, left on the agenda,
Go.
but if you'd like to take a 5-minute break, we just need a motion to recess for 5 minutes.
Motion to recess for 5 minutes, Carrillo?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Okay, we will reconvene at 3:35 PM. Thank you.
Mr. Smith, you ready?
Yes, I will. JC, can you get the door, please? And if we can just get a motion to reconvene.
No, it's not.
So we just need a motion to reconvene the City Plan Commission?
Motion to reconvene?
So move.
Second, Castro.
All in favor to reconvene? Motion carries.
Okay, 3:36, we're back in session.
All right. Major combination, number 4.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the Commission. This is Juan Naranjo with Planning and Inspections. Item number 4 of the agenda is Take 5 Dyer subdivision. This is a major combination application. This development is located west of Diana Drive and south of Dyer Street, within the city of El Paso limits. This is the proposed development superimposed over aerial map. This is the preliminary plat, and this is the final plat. The applicant is proposing to subdivide 1.25 acre of land to create a commercial subdivision comprising of 1 lot. Access to the subdivision is proposed from Dyer Street. All existing structure on the subdivision will be demolished. Drainage will be provided by a surface flow runoff to Diana Drive. This application was reviewed under the current subdivision code. The applicant is requesting one exception from the City Plan Commission to waive the construction of 1 foot of sidewalk along Diana Drive to allow the current configuration. This is the required and existing closed section for Diana Drive. And this is the required and the existing proportional share for Diana Drive. So the existing proportional share is exceeding the required for a street design manual. That is 46 and the existing is 50. The applicant is requesting to waive the construction of 1 foot of sidewalk of the proportional share. This is the existing condition for Diana Drive. The City Plan Commission may waive the requirement of improvement based on at least 50% of the lot with a quarter mile of the subdivision has already been developed and the existing street improvements are in character with the neighborhood. Staff recommends approval of Take 5 Dyer subdivision on a major combination basis. The applicant is requesting one exception from the City Plan Commission to waive the construction of 1 foot of sidewalk along Diana Drive to allow the current configuration. Thank you. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Naranjo. Any questions for?
Is there any danger to pedestrians or the surrounding area without that sidewalk? I mean, we're saying, well, they're requesting not to build the 1 foot sidewalk.
1 foot of sidewalk to allow the current configuration. So the existing development has a 5 foot sidewalk.
Okay. So it's going to go from 5 feet to 4 feet?
No.
Okay, so explain it to me, because that's
Okay,
what
the required for the street cross section is 6 foot of sidewalk.
Oh, okay.
The existing is 5 foot of sidewalk. So they are asking an exception to waive the construction of 1 foot of sidewalk to allow the current configuration that is what is right now, what we have right now.
Correct. Kevin Smith with Planning Inspections. Yes, correct. 5 feet is there right now, which was our current standards, but as the code just got changed with the street design manual,
6 feet.
6 feet is the
Right.
current standard.
So, okay, now I get it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, can we hear from the applicant?
Good afternoon, George Hollywood, SLI Engineering, and we agree with all staff comments.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, it's in our ball court. I'll entertain a motion.
I move.
Second?
We have a motion to approve item number 4 and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Now we move on to re-subdivision combination number 5, and we have Mr. Saloom.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, members of the Commission. Andrew Salome with Planning Inspections. Item number 5 in the agenda is the Wells Park Addition Replat B. It's a subdivision combination application. Development is located within the City of El Paso limits, and it is located south of Montana Avenue and west of Joe Battle Boulevard. Access to the subdivision is proposed from Joe Battle Boulevard and also Sharon Drive. Here's a picture of the subdivision superimposed on the aerial map. The applicant is proposing to replat 7.5 acres of vacant land to create a commercial subdivision that will be comprised of 4 commercial lots. The commercial lots are a range of approximately 0.84 acres all the way up to 4.7 acres. Primary access will be from Sharon Drive and also Joe Battle Boulevard. The development will be providing its proportionate share of the improvements for Michael Drive and Sharon Drive, and it includes 19 feet of pavement, 6 feet of landscape planters strip, and also 5 feet of sidewalk. Drainage will be provided of surface flow runoff to a retention pond that is near the subdivision. The applicant, this application was reviewed as the standards of the current subdivision code. This is a preliminary plat. This is a final plat. The applicant will be requesting an alternative design pursuant to El Paso Code 19.26.040, which is the alternative subdivision improvement design of the applicable code. The alternative design is a request to allow for 10 feet of hike and bike trail path west of Joe Battle Boulevard. This will be in lieu of the required 6-foot sidewalk. This is a comparison of the applicant's proportionate share that illustrates the alternative design exceeding the minimum standard of the 5-foot sidewalk for a major arterial. As such, staff does recommend approval of the alternative design request. This is the existing conditions for Joe Battle Boulevard. And staff does recommend approval of the Wells Park Addition Replat B on a re-subdivision combination basis. It does comply with the Title 19 requirements and also approval of the alternative design request. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Saloom? No, thank you, sir. Can we hear from Mr. Conde?
Good afternoon, Chair, Commissioners. Conrad Conde with Conde Incorporated. We do concur with all staff's comments.
Any questions? Sina, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It's in our hands.
Commissioner Gallardo, move to approve.
Carrillo, second.
We have a motion to approve item number 5 and a second. Any other conversation? Thoughts? Ideas? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, now we're moving to the public hearing on the right-of-way of number 6. We'll do the public hearing after the presentation. Mr. Jorge Olmos.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the Commission. This is George Olmos with Planning and Inspections, and this item is Caldwell Paisano right-of-way vacation, a right-of-way vacation application. The right-of-way proposed to be vacated is located within the city of El Paso, west of Mesa Street and south of Interstate 10. The applicant is proposing to vacate a 0.13 acre portion of Caldwell Street, officially a portion of previous Paisano Drive alignment, in order to formalize an existing situation. The area is within an existing City of El Paso owned parking lot with the intent to keep the use as a parking lot. The right-of-way is paved and contains a full-width utility easement, which is to remain. No improvements over the right-of-way are proposed. Here we have a survey of the area to be vacated. And here we have pictures that depict the existing conditions of the right-of-way with the area to be vacated highlighted in red. Notice of public hearing was published in the El Paso Times on September 4th, 2023. Notices were mailed to property owners within 200 feet from the right-of-way on September 4th, 2023. The Planning Division has not received any communication in support of or in opposition to the request at this time. To conclude, staff does recommend approval of the Caldwell Paisano right-of-way vacation, and this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olmos. Any questions?
Commissioner Hanson, is there a reason that they're doing this right-of-way vacation application now, or they just wanted to?
They just want to formalize the situation that has existed for many years.
Okay.
Any other questions? Do we hear from the city?
Yes. Carl Rimkus, representing Sun Metro, and we do support the staff recommendations. And if there's any questions, I'm available to answer.
Any questions? See none? Thank you, sir. All right. We have it. Oh, public hearing. Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak for or against this project? Anybody on telephone? If you are, *6 to unmute. One more time, this is public comment on the item number 6. I see none. Public hearing is closed. Commissioners.
Motion to approve, Gorski.
Second, Gallardo.
We have a motion to approve item number 6 and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion passes. We move on to, I
Thank
think,
you,
our
Commissioners.
last one. Number 8.
So Kevin Smith with Planning Inspections, as Provy is walking up to the podium. So again, as was mentioned a little bit before on another item, but one of the other commissions with the city is the Historic Landmark Commission, who sees items that come before them, who are business or property owners who are looking at doing improvements on their property who lie within the historic district. So those typically do not come before the City Plan Commission. The HLC is the one designated by council to make those determinations and those decisions. However, Provy has been working for the past number of years on amendments to the code, working with the neighborhoods, the community, on some amendments to make some improvements. And as City Plan Commission is a recommending body on zoning-related matters, and this falls within Title 20, which is our zoning code, it is appropriate that you also chime in and provide your recommendation before this goes to City Council for consideration. So with that, I'll turn over to Provy.
Good afternoon, Providencia Velasquez, Historic Preservation Officer. This item is a revision of Chapter 20.20, which governs historic landmark and preservation in the city of El Paso. The code was originally approved in 1978 and it was last updated in 2006, so we're kind of overdue for some revisions and some changes and for updating. So the changes are intended to create several things. First of all, we want something that's clearer, streamlined, and more attuned to the expenses of being an historic district. There is going to be greater sensitivity and usability to users from large commercial properties to small residential ones. The policies hopefully will better shepherd development and realign with the current city values, and we will also be aligning with state and national policy. Now, the purpose of the revisions is several. One is to address gaps such as expiration dates that we currently don't have. Submittal documents and fees for an appeal. Demolition by neglect will certainly be addressed. Violations will be addressed by the changes. And we will remove restrictions for properties listed only on the National Register of Historic Places. And overall, we want to strengthen the ordinance and prevent deterioration of historic properties. So just to highlight some of the major changes, some of the major changes would be properties that are listed on the National Register only will not need to go through city review, because listing on the National Register is really what we call an honorific, which means you get to have bragging rights. There should be no restrictions unless federal funding is applied. Currently, city code states that we can review properties on the National Register, and we want to clarify that and redefine it. Approvals will now have expiration dates, so an administrative review means it'll expire after 24 months, a certificate of appropriateness will expire after 48 months, and a certificate of demolition will expire after 12 months. No permits will be approved until violations are cured, removed, or brought into compliance. And demolition by neglect will also be addressed. Demolition by neglect, according to revisions, will now require that the property owner respond within 7 days. And if the property owner does not respond, the city will take action such as boarding and securing, and then will bill the property owner and put a lien on the property if the property owner is not responding. So currently, the proposed changes have been verified with numerous neighborhood associations, including the Downtown Management District, the Manhattan Heights Neighborhood Association, the Sunset Heights Neighborhood Improvement Association, among others. The Historic Landmark Commission has approved the latest revisions, and here we're currently asking you to take a look and approve the revisions as well and recommend approval to City Council, which will be the next step. And that's currently where we are at the moment, so I can answer any questions.
All right. Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Gorski.
Yes, thank you, Gorski. The description you had on there on the 3 individuals, I believe was the head of the building, public, I mean, it's one of the first slides that you had. If you can pull those up.
What happened to her?
In order to rectify the situation, it said the owner shall hire, I believe, yeah, it's on that one there. Safety of the building will be determined by building, chief building official, historic preservation officer. See, there's one other place on there. Was after that. Anyway, you had the terminology on there that there were 3 individuals and one was and an engineer hired by the property owner. Where did that language come from?
That language was decided on when we were making revisions to this ordinance. The Historic Landmark Commission would meet every other week to go over these revisions, and this is what was decided. So that the safety can't be questioned. It can't really be contested if 3 people are weighing in, especially a licensed engineer. So that was also just to ensure that everyone is notified, that there is fair input, and that the building will be determined whether or not it's safe by the chief building official and an engineer, and with input from the preservation office.
Okay, I understand the principle behind it, and no, I agree. It should have someone authorize that. However, there have just been recently a number of lawsuits between the Texas Board of Architecture examiners and the engineering profession, and going all the way to the Texas Supreme Court, and they kicked it out as saying an engineer shall be doing that, and the Supreme Court said no, an architect should be doing that, and that's what determined. So that's the reason I ask you where this came from and whether or not it has come since the precedent was established by the court.
No, Mr. Gorsuch, I can tell you that, no, it has not come forward since the precedent was issued by the court, because honestly, I was not aware of the precedent. The revisions are several years old. We did start the process about 10 years ago. So that's probably when we decided that we needed this much input regarding demolition by neglect.
I don't know, maybe it might be a good idea for our attorney to at least follow that through with the Texas Board or the Attorney General's office who brought the suit.
Okay, well, thank you for the information.
Any other questions? You have a que- oh. Commissioner Hanson.
Commissioner Hanson, I would like to ask, just because we talked about how the historical designation for the property today was part of the contestation. Do the changes in here, do any of them address how properties like that should be rezoned, what the process should be?
No, we do not talk about rezoning because rezoning is not part of the preservation ordinance at all.
But you don't talk about, I guess I don't know, I didn't read every single, sorry, I didn't read all of them, but there's nothing in here that kind of would have pertained to the situation today?
Not necessarily. Basically, revisions were made to the code. They address certain things, but as I said, not actually rezoning. There's a whole commission that's dedicated to that. So the Landmark Commission doesn't tell the property owner what the uses of the property will be. We are more involved with the design. So that's
Yeah,
what's being addressed.
and if I might, I'll just add on to what Provi says, is, the Historic Landmark Commission looks at the design of buildings and structures and amenities, if you will, on a property. The City Plan Commission, along with City Council, looks at the rezoning and looks at use, is what is that use appropriate for there? And then once that is approved, then whenever they're going through the design of a certain building or structure, then it goes through the Historic Landmark Commission, the Historic Preservation Office for their approval as well.
Questions?
For Mr. Smith. So based on the information that we just received from Commissioner Gorsuch, does that preclude us from voting on this?
I think we can move forward if the commission feels appropriate. What we'll do is we'll look at this lawsuit that is taking place, and we'll confer with our legal team. The intent of this, like Provi mentioned, I think as well, is we don't want a unilateral decision that is made collectively between the chief building official, the Historic Preservation Office, as well as a licensed professional, whether that be an engineer or architect, just to make sure that determination is appropriate. The historic properties and structures that are contributing our value to the city of El Paso, and we want to make sure we preserve them, and we want to make sure that anything that is needed to be demolished is done so appropriately as well. So we want to make sure all the ducks are in a row for that.
All right. Anything else? No more questions? Can I entertain a motion for the proposed amendments?
Gallardo, move to approve.
Any more discussion? Are you sure we can be here for another half hour? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Can I entertain a motion to adjourn? All in favor? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.